This will be the last story of the series. Gas station on Route 66 is closing until further notice. Whenever it opens up again, I will start making more stories. I never thought I'd be the last one standing here, behind this grimy counter, at the old gas station off Route 66. The place has been a graveyard of dreams for as long as I can remember, sucking in folks like me who needed quick cash and spitting out husks. But now, it's finally closing down. There was that kid who worked here a couple of years back, swore he saw a trucker peel off his face like it was a mask, revealing something wet and pulsing underneath. I laughed them off at first, chalked it up to boredom and bad weed. But as the last employee, tying up loose ends before they bulldoze this dump, I'm starting to believe every word. The sign out front flickers like a dying heartbeat. Last days, everything must go, but nobody's buying. Route 66 stretches out into the desert night like a black vein, pulling in the lost and the damned. I took the night shift because days were for suckers, and honestly, the quiet suited me. Or it used to. Lately, the quiet feels alive, pressing in from the shadows beyond the pumps. The station's a relic. Peeling paint, shelves half empty with dusty candy bars and motor oil. The cooler hums in the back, its fluorescent light buzzing like angry bees. I've got a week left before they lock the doors for good. Inventory to count, pumps to drain. But tonight, as the wind howls through the cracks, I can't shake the feeling that the station isn't ready to let go. It's like it's holding on, waiting for one last customer to settle the score. My shift started normal enough. I flipped the open sign at dusk, the sky bleeding red over the horizon. No cars for hours, just the occasional tumbleweed scraping across the lot. I busied myself wiping down the counter, the rag coming away sticky with something that wasn't grime. Blood? No, couldn't be. Probably just old syrup from a spilled soda. But it smeared dark, clinging to my fingers like it wanted to stay. I washed it off in the sink, watching the water swirl pink down the drain. That's when the first car pulled up, a rusted sedan, headlights dim like sleepy eyes. The driver didn't get out right away. Sat there, engine idling, silhouette hunched over the wheel. I squinted through the window, heart picking up a notch. Customers aren't normal here, the old-timers said. They come from the road, but they don't belong to it. Finally, the door creaked open, and he stepped out. Tall, too tall for the car, limbs unfolding like a spider from a web. His skin was pale, stretched tight over bones that seemed to shift under the surface. He wore a faded flannel shirt stained with what looked like oil. Or was it something thicker? He shuffled to the pump, inserted the nozzle, but didn't swipe a card. Just stood there, staring at the numbers ticking up, gas spilling over the tank and pooling on the concrete. The smell hit me through the glass, acrid and wrong, like burnt hair mixed with gasoline. I grabbed the intercom. "Hey buddy, you're overflowing." No response. He turned slowly, face catching the floodlight. His eyes were black pits, no whites, just endless voids sucking in the light. A grin split his face, teeth jagged and too many, like shards of glass embedded in gums that bled freely. I locked the door, heart hammering. He didn't approach, just finished pumping, though how, with no payment, I don't know, and drove off into the night, leaving a trail of glistening fluid that wasn't fuel. I mopped it up later, the mop head coming away shredded, fibers dissolved like acid had eaten them. That was just the appetizer. The real fun started around midnight, when the power flickered. The cooler groaned louder, like something inside was trying to get out. I checked it, doors swinging open to reveal rows of sodas and beers, condensation dripping like sweat. But at the back, a shape. Human-sized, curled fetal on the shelf. I slammed the door, breath fogging the glass. No, hallucination, had to be. The stories were getting to me, the ones about the attendant who vanished mid-shift, leaving only a bloody handprint on the cooler handle. They found his uniform folded neatly, skin missing. Shaking it off, I sat behind the counter, flipping through an old logbook. Entries from previous employees, scribbled warnings. Don't serve the woman in white. She'll ask for directions to hell. The kid with no shadow wants candy. Give it or he'll take your tongue. Linked like a chain, each story building on the last. all tied to this cursed stretch of Route 66. The highway's a magnet for the unnatural, they say, a thin spot where the world frays and lets in the horrors. And now, as the last one, I'm the keeper of it all. The phone rang then, startling me. No caller ID, just static at first, then a voice garbled wet like speaking through blood. Closing time? Not yet, we still need service. Click. Dead line. Outside, another vehicle approached. A van, windows tinted black. It parked crooked, doors sliding open. Outspilled figures, not walking but lurching. Bodies twisted in ways bodies shouldn't twist. One had an arm bent backward at the elbow, bone protruding through skin, white and sharp. Another dragged a leg, foot turned inward, toes mangled into stumps that left bloody prints. They didn't head to the pumps. They came straight for the door. I backed up, knocking over a display of chips that crunched underfoot. The leader, if you could call it that, pressed its face to the glass, nose flattening, skin sloughing off in wet flaps. Its breath fogged the window, drawing shapes with a finger that ended in a raw stump. A smiley face dripping red. They pounded now, fists meaty thuds against the door. Cracks spiderwebbed the glass. I grabbed the baseball bat under the counter, the one the previous guy left with a note. For when they come inside. The stories flashed. The night the pumps ran blood instead of gas coating a customer's car in viscera that screamed when hosed off. Or the shift where shadows detached from bodies, slithering under the door to strangle the clerk from within. Linked horrors, each employee adding to the lore, and me, the final chapter. The door buckled, hinge screaming. They poured in, reeking of decay. Flesh hanging in ribbons from frames that twitched with unnatural life. The first one lunged, nails raking the air, gouging furrows in the counter that smoked. I swung the bat, connecting with its head. A sickening crack, skull caving like overripe fruit. Gray matter splattered, wriggling with worms that burrowed into the wood. It didn't fall, just staggered, laughing a gurgle that bubbled blood from split lips. The others advanced, one peeling back its shirt to reveal a chest cavity hollowed out, ribs like bars over a pulsing void where organs should be. Something moved inside, tentacles or fingers reaching out. I retreated to the back room, barricading with shelves that toppled, spilling cans that rolled like severed heads. Their footsteps squelched, leaving trails of pus and bile. Whispers seeped through the door. Last one. Join us. The road needs feeding. I clutched the bat, sweat-stinging eyes, realizing the station wasn't closing. It was awakening. The previous stories weren't warnings. They were invitations, pulling me deeper into the nightmare that Route 66 birthed. As they battered the door, wood splintering, I knew this was only the beginning. The gas station's final act with me as the star. And whatever came next would make the old tales pale. The door gave way. The door exploded inward, wood shards flying like shrapnel, embedding into the walls and slicing my cheek as I ducked behind the toppled shelves. The air thickened with the stench of rot, so heavy it coated my throat, gagging me. The things, those customers, if you could call them that, poured into the back room, their movements jerky, like puppets with half-cut strings. The one I'd hit with the bat was still upright, its head a collapsed mess, gray ooze dripping from the crater where its face should have been. It swayed, gurgling that awful laugh, blood and worms splattering the floor. The others followed, their bodies wrong in ways that made my stomach churn. One had no lower jaw, just a gaping hole where teeth dangled from shredded gums, swinging like wind chimes. Another's skin sloughed off in wet sheets, exposing muscle that twitched and glistened. Veins pulsing black under the flickering fluorescent light. I gripped the bat, knuckles white, backing toward the emergency exit. The stories from the logbook burned in my mind. Every employee before me had faced something like this, hadn't they? The girl in the cooler, the kid who saw the faceless trucker. They'd all left pieces of themselves in this station, warnings scrawled in shaky hands. Don't look in their eyes, one entry read. They'll take your soul and wear your skin. I hadn't believed it then, but now, with those black pit gazes locking onto me, I felt my insides twist, like something was already clawing its way out. The jawless one lunged first, faster than I expected. its hands, fingers fused into claw-like stubs, raking the air inches from my face. I swung the bat, catching it in the chest. The impact was wet, like hitting a sack of meat, and its ribcage gave way, collapsing inward with a sickening squelch. Black fluid sprayed, burning my skin where it landed, raising blisters that popped and wept instantly. It staggered but didn't stop, reaching into its own chest cavity and pulling out something writhing. A slick, eel-like thing that snapped at me with needle teeth. I stumbled back, kicking over a box of inventory, motor oil cans clattering across the floor. The emergency exit was rusted, the bar sticking as I slammed my weight against it. The others closed in, their footsteps leaving smears of gore that hissed on the linoleum. The hollow-chested one was closest now, its void of a torso pulsating. Those tentacles or fingers or whatever they were stretching toward me, dripping a viscous sludge that ate through the floor, leaving smoking holes. "Join us," it rasped, voice like gravel grinding in a throat that wasn't there. "The road's hungry, always hungry." I thought of the old Route 66 tales, how the highway wasn't just a road but a living thing, a serpent coiling through the desert, feeding on whoever dared to stop. Every employee's story pointed to it. The station was its mouth and we were the bait. The exit bar finally gave, and I tumbled into the night. The desert air cold and sharp against my sweat-soaked skin. The lot was empty except for that blacked-out van, its doors still open like a maw waiting to swallow. Sprinted for the pumps, thinking I could hide, maybe find a weapon in the maintenance shed. But the ground beneath the pumps was soft, unnatural, like stepping on flesh. It pulsed under my boots, warm and slick, and when I looked down I saw it ripple, veins spreading like cracks in the asphalt. The fuel hoses twitched, coiling like snakes, nozzles dripping something thick and red that wasn't gasoline. I remembered the logbook scrawl about the pumps running blood, how the last guy hosed it off and heard it scream. I thought it was madness then. Now, I believed. They were coming, their shapes shambling out of the station, silhouettes warped against the flickering neon. I ducked behind Pump 3, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The air buzzed with that same angry bee hum from the cooler, but louder, like the station itself was alive, vibrating with malice. I peeked around the pump and one of them, the bat-smashed one, was closer now, its ruined head lolling, worms spilling from the wound like rice from a torn bag. It stopped, sniffing the air, and I saw its tongue, long, barbed, flicking out to taste the night. It was hunting me. I bolted for the shed, a rusted shack at the edge of the lot where we kept tools and spare parts. The door was unlocked, thank God, and I slipped inside, barricading it with a heavy wrench wedged under the handle. The shed reeked of oil and something sweeter, like decay just starting to bloom. In the dark, I fumbled for the light switch, but my hand brushed something soft and wet instead. The bulb flickered on, and I froze. Hanging from the ceiling, tied with jumper cables, was a body, or what was left of it. Skin peeled back in strips, muscles exposed like raw steak, eyes gone, just empty sockets staring down. It was wearing the station's uniform, name tag glinting. Mike, the kid from 2 years ago, the one who saw the trucker's face come off. He hadn't run away like they thought. He'd been here the whole time. I gagged, bile burning my throat, and stumbled back, knocking over a toolbox. Wrenches and screwdrivers clattered, loud enough to draw attention. Outside, the things howled, a sound like tearing metal mixed with human screams. The shed door rattled, claws scraping, and I heard that wet voice again. Last one. Always the last one. The jumper cables above creaked, and Mike's corpse twitched, head jerking toward me like a marionette. His mouth opened, jaw unhinging too wide, and a voice not his own hissed, "You can't leave, the station chooses." I grabbed a crowbar from the spilled tools, heavier than the bat, its cold iron grounding me. The door buckled, metal denting inward, and I saw fingers, too long, too many joints, curling through the gaps. The stories were true, all of them, linked by this cursed place. The woman in white who asked for hell, the shadowless kid, the blood in the pumps, they weren't separate. They were pieces of the same nightmare. The road's hunger manifesting over and over, and now it was my turn to feed it. I swung the crowbar at the door as it gave way, catching the jawless one in the neck. Its head lolled back, nearly severing, but it kept coming, black eel thing snapping from its chest. I pushed past, running back into the lot. The ground pulsed harder now, asphalt splitting to reveal something beneath, flesh raw and red, like the earth was flayed open. The van was gone, but the station's lights flared, blinding, casting shadows that moved on their own, stretching toward me like hands. I heard the coolers hum again, louder, coming from everywhere, and realized it wasn't the cooler. It was the road itself, singing its hunger. The logbook's last entry flashed in my mind. The station isn't closing. It's waking up. They were everywhere now, circling, their bodies breaking apart and reforming, flesh knitting back together only to tear again. I swung the crowbar, smashing skulls, shattering limbs. But they didn't stop. The bat-smashed one grabbed my arm, its grip cold and wet, nails digging into my skin until blood welled. I tore free, flesh ripping, and ran for the station, thinking maybe I could lock myself in, call for help. But the phone was dead, the line dripping that same black sludge from the pumps. The windows shattered inward, glass raining, and they climbed through, their bodies folding through the frames like insects. I was trapped, the station's walls closing in, the air thick with their rot. The crowbar felt heavy, my arm burning where they'd touched me, blisters spreading like an infection. The stories weren't just warnings, they were a map leading me here to this moment. The last employee, the final sacrifice. And as they closed in, their black eyes gleaming, I knew the road wasn't done with me yet. The station's heart was beating and it wanted mine. The station's walls seemed to pulse, the air so thick with rot it clung to my skin like damp cloth. I gripped the crowbar, my arm screaming from the blisters where the thing had grabbed me. The skin there bubbling and splitting, oozing something yellow that smelled like sulfur and death. The creatures, those customers, crowded the shattered windows, their bodies twisting into shapes that defied bone and muscle. One had arms that stretched too long, dragging on the floor, fingers splayed into tendrils that squirmed like worms. Another's face was splitting down the middle, peeling back to reveal a second mouth. This one lined with teeth that spiraled inward like a meat grinder. Their black pit eyes locked onto me, unblinking, and I felt that pull again. The same one the logbook warned about. Their eyes take you apart, piece by piece. I backed toward the counter, my boots slipping in the black sludge seeping from the broken phone line. It wasn't just the creatures. The station itself was turning against me. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting shadows that writhed like living things, stretching into claws that scraped the walls. The cooler's hum was deafening now, a low, guttural drone that vibrated in my chest, syncing with the pulse of the ground outside. Route 66 wasn't just a road, the old story said. It was a vein, and this gas station was its beating heart, hungry for blood. Every tale from the previous employees, Mike's faceless trucker, the girl's eyeless corpse in the cooler, the pump spewing gore, was a thread in the same tapestry, and I was the final stitch. One of them lunged, the one with the spiral-toothed second mouth, its jaw unhinging with a wet pop. I swung the crowbar, aiming for its head, but it moved too fast, ducking under the swing and grabbing my leg. Its fingers sank into my calf, not just gripping but burrowing like roots digging into soil. Pain exploded white-hot, and I screamed, feeling my muscle tear as it pulled, blood welling up through my jeans. I drove the crowbar down, smashing its wrist, and the hand detached, still wriggling, fingers crawling up my leg like a spider. I stomped it, bones crunching, but it kept moving, oozing that black sludge that burned through my boot sole. I stumbled over the counter, knocking over the register, coins and receipts scattering like ashes. The others were inside now, crawling over the broken glass, their bodies leaving trails of flesh and fluid that smoked on the linoleum. The hollow-chested one was back, its torso void pulsing, those tentacle things whipping out, each tipped with a barb that glistened with venom. It lashed at me, and I dove behind the counter, the barb embedding in the wood where my head had been. The counter splintered, and I saw the barb twitch, injecting something that made the wood bubble and rot, turning it soft and pulpy like decayed flesh. I scrambled for the bat I'd dropped earlier, fingers brushing its handle under a pile of spilled candy bars. The logbook's words echoed, The station chooses who stays. Mike's body in the shed, the girl in the cooler, they hadn't quit or run. They'd been claimed, their bodies woven into this place, their stories fuel for its hunger. I wasn't just fighting these things, I was fighting the station itself, this cursed stop on Route 66 where the road fed on the living. The bat felt useless now, too light against the nightmare closing in. But it was all I had. I swung at the nearest one, the armless one with tendrils dragging behind, and caught it in the shoulder. The impact sent it reeling, but its tendrils lashed out, wrapping around my wrist, tightening until my bones creaked. They were cold, slimy, and I felt my skin blistering again, the pain like fire under my flesh. I yanked free, tearing skin, and ran for the back room again, hoping to reach the emergency exit. But the floor was alive now, rippling like the asphalt outside, soft and warm, sucking at my boots. I glanced down and saw faces in the linoleum, distorted, human, mouths open in silent screams, eyes white and blind. One looked like Mike, his features melting into the floor, his name tag glinting faintly before it sank into the muck. The stories were true. The station didn't let you leave. It took you piece by piece until you were part of it. I kicked free, my boot pulling away with a sickening squelch, strings of flesh clinging to the sole. The back room was worse. The walls were bleeding now, red streaks running down like paint pooling on the floor. The cooler door was open, swinging slowly, and inside I saw her. The girl from the old story, her eyeless corpse standing upright, head tilted like she was listening. Her hands clutched that same blood-soaked receipt, now dripping fresh as if the ink itself was alive. She turned toward me, sockets weeping black, and whispered, "You're late." Her voice was a chorus, layered with others. Mike's, the kids, every employee who'd vanished here. The station was speaking through her, through them all. I slammed the cooler shut, but the creatures were already at the door, their bodies squeezing through the narrow frame, bones snapping and reforming to fit. The jawless one was back, its eel thing snapping, teeth grazing my arm and leaving a gash that burned like acid. I swung the bat, shattering its remaining teeth, but it didn't care, its second mouth opening wider, sucking in air with a wet hiss. I was trapped, the exit blocked by the pulsing floor, the walls closing in, the air so thick with their stench I could barely breathe. Then the lights went out, plunging the room into darkness. The hum stopped, replaced by silence so heavy it pressed on my eardrums. I held my breath, bat raised, listening. A whisper came from the dark, close, right behind my ear. "The road sees you." I spun, swinging blindly, but hit nothing. The air shifted and I felt them moving, circling, their breaths hot and wet, their fingers brushing my skin. Light, teasing, like they were toying with me. The stories hadn't lied. Route 66 was alive, and this station was its altar, demanding sacrifice. I was the last, the final offering, and it wasn't going to let me go. A hand grabbed my ankle, cold and bony, pulling me down. I fell, the bat slipping from my grip, and the floor swallowed my hands, warm and sticky, like sinking into a corpse. I screamed, thrashing. But the more I fought, the deeper I sank. The faces in the floor pressing against my palms, their mouths sucking at my skin. The creatures loomed over me, their black eyes glinting in the dark, reflecting a light that wasn't there. The hollow-chested one leaned close, its void pulsing, and I saw something inside, my own face, screaming, trapped in that endless dark. I clawed free, ripping my hands from the floor, skin tearing, blood mixing with the station's red ooze. I grabbed the bat, swinging wildly, and heard a crunch as it connected with something soft and wet. The lights flickered back on, dim, revealing the creatures retreating, their bodies melting into the walls, sinking into the floor like water into sand. But they weren't gone. I could feel them, waiting, watching, their hunger await in the air. The station wasn't done with me, the road wasn't done. I staggered to my feet, clutching the bat, my body screaming with pain, blisters spreading up my arms, my leg barely holding my weight. The cooler hummed again, louder, and I heard her voice, Mike's, the others, chanting, "Last one, last one." The station was closing, but not the way I thought. It was sealing me in. making me part of its story, another name in the logbook, another warning no one would read. And as the walls pulsed faster, the ground shaking beneath me, I knew the next part of this nightmare was coming. The road was still hungry. The station's pulse thundered in my ears, syncing with my own heartbeat as the walls bled faster, red streams pooling into shapes that writhed on the floor like living runes. My hand stung, raw from tearing free of the linoleum's fleshy grip, skin hanging in flaps, blood mixing with the black sludge that coated everything. The creatures had melted into the walls, their forms dissolving like wax, but their presence lingered, a pressure in the air, heavy and suffocating. The bat hung loose in my grip, slick with my own blood and whatever oozed from the things I'd hit. My leg throbbed where the jawless one had clawed me, the wound festering, veins darkening under my skin like ink spreading through water. The logbook's stories churned in my head, Mike's body strung up in the shed, the girl in the cooler, the pump's bleeding screams. They weren't just tales, they were the station's history, its appetite, and I was its final meal. The cooler's hum surged, a guttural roar that shook the shelves, sending cans and papers crashing to the floor. I stumbled toward the counter, desperate for anything, a weapon, a phone, a way out. But the counter was alive now, wood pulsing like a heartbeat splintering under my touch. The register screen flickered, not with numbers but with words. Last one, feed the road. I smashed it with the bat, glass shattering, sparks flying, but the words kept scrolling, burned into my vision. Route 66 wasn't just outside, it was here, in the walls, the floor, the air, a living thing that had claimed every employee before me. The logbook said it all. The station doesn't close, it waits. Something moved behind me, a wet slithering sound like meat dragged across concrete. I turned, bat raised, and saw the cooler door swinging open again. The girl's eyeless corpse was gone, but the shelves were moving, bottles and cans sliding aside as the back wall split open, revealing a tunnel of raw, glistening flesh. It pulsed, veins throbbing, and the smell hit me. Rotting meat, copper, and something sickly sweet, like flowers left too long in a vase. The hum came from there, deep and resonant, calling me. I remembered the logbook's warning about the woman in white who asked for directions to hell. Don't follow her, it said. She leads to the heart. I hadn't seen her yet, but I felt her now, her presence woven into the station's hunger. I backed away, but the floor rippled, tripping me, and I fell hard, the bat skidding across the room. The creatures were back, emerging from the walls like they'd been birthed from the station's bleeding flesh. The hollow-chested one led them, its void torso pulsating, tentacles snapping out, each barb dripping that corrosive sludge. Another had no face now, just a smooth expanse of skin that split open to reveal a nest of eyes, blinking in unison, each one reflecting my terrified face. The jawless one crawled, its eel thing snapping, teeth scraping the floor, leaving gouges that filled with blood. They didn't rush me this time. They stalked, deliberate, like predators savoring the kill. I scrambled for the bat, fingers brushing its handle, but a tendril lashed out, wrapping my ankle, yanking me toward the cooler. The tunnel's mouth gaped wider, and I saw movement inside. Shapes, human and not, twisting together in a mass of limbs and faces, all screaming without sound. Mike was there, his peeled body writhing, his empty sockets staring. The girl, too, her eyeless face pressed against others, their flesh fusing into a single, pulsating wall. The station was collecting them, weaving them into itself. And now it wanted me. The logbook's final entry burned in my mind. The road doesn't let you go, it keeps you. I grabbed a shattered piece of the register, its jagged edge cutting my palm, and stabbed the tendril. It screeched, a sound that tore through my skull and released me, black blood spraying. I lunged for the bat, rolling to my feet, and swung at the hollow-chested one, catching it in the side. Its ribs cracked, spilling more of that writhing void, but it didn't fall. It laughed, a wet, choking sound, and the tentacles lunged, one grazing my arm, the barb slicing deep. Pain seared, my vision blurring, and I felt the venom spreading. My arm going numb, blisters erupting faster now, splitting to reveal muscle underneath. The tunnel pulsed louder, the hum a command now pulling at my mind. Come. it whispered in a voice that was all of them. Mike, the girl, the kid with no shadow, every soul the station had claimed. I staggered back, fighting the urge to walk toward it, to let it swallow me. The creatures closed in, their bodies breaking apart, reforming, flesh sloughing off and growing back in seconds. The eyeless one's nest of eyes blinked faster, each one showing me dying, torn apart, consumed, my face joining the tunnel's writhing mass. I swung the bat wildly, hitting nothing, the air thick with their stench, my lungs burning with every breath. I ran for the front door, but the station fought back. The windows sealed shut, glass fusing into a solid sheet, trapping me inside. The floor buckled, splitting open to reveal more of that fleshy ground. Veins pulsing, hands reaching up, fingers brushing my boots. One grabbed my ankle, nails digging in, and I saw its face in the floor. Mike again, his mouth open, teeth sharp and new, snapping at my heel. I stomped down, crushing his jaw, but more hands rose, clawing, pulling, their skin cold and slick, peeling away under my boots. I swung the bat at the nearest creature, the one with the spiral teeth mouth, and caught it in the neck. Its head lolled, nearly severing, but it kept coming, blood spraying in arcs that burned the air. The station was feeding them, keeping them alive, and I realized it wasn't just them I was fighting. It was the road itself, Route 66, its hunger endless. The logbook stories weren't warnings. They were a record of sacrifices. Each employee a meal, and I was the last course. The tunnel's hum grew louder, shaking the walls, and I saw her, the woman in white, stepping from the cooler's mouth. Her dress was stained with blood, her face pale, eyes black pits like the others. But her smile was worse, soft and knowing, like she'd been waiting for me. "Directions," she whispered, her voice cutting through the hum. "To hell." She pointed to the tunnel, and I felt my legs move, not wanting to, drawn by that pull, that hunger. The creatures parted for her, bowing, their bodies dripping, reforming, worshipping. I fought it, digging my heels into the floor, but it sucked at me, pulling harder. My arm was numb now, the blisters spreading to my chest, my heart stuttering. The bat felt like lead, but I raised it, screaming, and charged her. She didn't move, just smiled wider, her teeth sharp and endless. I swung, aiming for her head, but she dissolved, her body collapsing into a swarm of insects, black, buzzing, their wings slicing my skin as they engulfed me. I fell, bat clattering, and the tunnel's mouth loomed closer, its flesh walls pulsing, welcoming. The creatures closed in, their hands on me now, cold and wet, dragging me toward the tunnel. I screamed, thrashing, but the station was winning, the road's hunger too strong. The logbook's last words echoed, "It keeps you." And as the tunnel's mouth swallowed the light, I knew the next part of this nightmare would be worse. The station wasn't closing, it was claiming me, and Route 66 would never let go. The tunnel's fleshy walls closed around me, the air so thick with the stench of decay it felt like breathing tar. My body screamed, blisters splitting across my chest, venom pulsing through my veins, my arm limp and useless from the hollow-chested thing's barb. The bat was gone, lost in the swarm of insects that had been the woman in white, their wings still buzzing faintly in my ears, their cuts stinging like 1,000 needles. The creatures dragged me deeper, their hands, some clawed, some oozing, some just bone, digging into my skin, tearing strips of flesh that hung like ribbons. I thrashed, but the tunnel's pulse was stronger, a heartbeat that shook my bones, pulling me toward its core. The logbook stories were no longer just echoes. They were alive, woven into this place. Mike's peeled corpse, the girl's eyeless face, the kid with no shadow, all part of the road's endless hunger. Route 66 wasn't a highway, it was a predator, and this gas station was its throat. The tunnel walls glistened, raw and red, veins throbbing like arteries dripping of viscous fluid that burned where it touched my skin. Faces pressed against the flesh, half-formed, screaming silently. Employees, customers, travelers, all trapped in the station's memory. I saw Mike's face again, his sockets weeping black, his mouth twisting into a plea. "Don't let it take you." But it was too late. The creatures' grips tightened, their bodies melting into the walls and reforming, their black pit eyes gleaming with the road's malice. The hollow-chested one led them, its void torso pulsating, tentacles writhing like a nest of snakes, each barb dripping that corrosive sludge that ate through my boots, leaving my feet raw and bleeding. The hum was deafening now, a chorus of voices. Mike, the girl, the woman in white, and others I didn't know, all chanting, "Last one, feed the road." The tunnel sloped downward, the flesh underfoot soft and warm, sucking at my steps like quicksand. I clawed at the walls, my fingers sinking into the meat, pulling away chunks that squirmed in my hands, veins snapping like rubber bands. The pain was unbearable, my body breaking down, blisters bursting to reveal muscle and bone, my blood mixing with the tunnel's ooze. But I kept fighting, not because I thought I could escape, but because the alternative, becoming part of this place, another face in the walls, was worse. The tunnel opened into a chamber, vast and pulsing, the heart of the station. The walls were a tapestry of bodies fused together, limbs tangled, faces stretched and distorted, mouths moving in silent agony. At the center was a pit, black and endless, its edges writhing with tendrils that reached upward, grasping. The air vibrated with the road's hunger, a low growl that shook my teeth. The creatures stopped, forming a circle, their bodies swaying like worshippers at an altar. The woman in white appeared again, her form coalescing from the shadows, her dress now a writhing mass of insects, her smile sharp and eternal. "The road chooses," she said, her voice a blade in my mind. "You're home." I tried to scream, but my throat was raw, my voice drowned by the hum. The creatures pushed me toward the pit, their hands tearing deeper, my skin peeling away in wet strips. I saw my reflection in their eyes, my face but wrong, eyes blackening, skin blistering, becoming like them. The logbook's warnings were clear. The station keeps you, the road remakes you. I was becoming part of it, my body unraveling, my mind fraying under the weight of the road's will. But something in me, some stubborn spark, refused to give in. I thought of the others, their stories scrawled in desperation, their lives stolen. I wasn't going to be another entry. I lunged at the woman in white, my hands clawing at her face. Her skin tore like wet paper, revealing a mass of writhing worms beneath, each one snapping at me with tiny, toothed mouths. She laughed, her body dissolving into insects again, swarming over me, burrowing into my wounds. The pain was blinding, but I kept moving, diving for the pit's edge, hoping to find something, anything to fight back. My hand brushed something cold and solid, half buried in the flesh. A knife, rusted but sharp, its handle carved with initials I recognized. Mike's. He'd left it here, his final act of defiance, a weapon against the road. I grabbed it, slashing at the nearest creature, the jawless one. The blade sank into its chest, cutting through the eel thing inside, which screamed and burst, spraying black blood that burned like acid. The others howled, their bodies twitching, but they didn't stop. Their hands grabbing my arms, my legs, pulling me toward the pit. The tendrils from the pit rose higher, wrapping around my waist, their barbs piercing deep, injecting venom that made my vision swim. I stabbed the tendrils, the knife sinking deep, black ooze gushing out. The pit shuddered, the chamber shaking, flesh walls splitting to reveal more faces, more bodies, all screaming now, their voices joining the hum. The creatures staggered, their forms destabilizing, melting into the floor. But the woman in white was still there, her insect body reforming, her eyes burning into mine. "You can't stop it," she hissed. "The road always wins." I slashed at her, the knife cutting through her chest, but she didn't fall. Her body splitting open to reveal a void like the hollow-chested one, a black hole that sucked at my soul. I was weakening, my body failing, the venom spreading, my heart stuttering. The pit's tendrils tightened, pulling me closer, its darkness promising oblivion. But I thought of the logbook, the stories, the warnings. They weren't just victims, they were fighters, each one leaving a mark, a piece of resistance. Mike's knife, the girl's receipt, the kid's scribbled note, they were weapons, small but real. I stabbed the pit's edge, carving into the flesh, and the chamber screamed, a sound that tore through my skull, blood pouring from my ears. The creatures fell back, their bodies dissolving, but the woman in white lunged, her insect form engulfing me, wings cutting, mouths biting. I drove the knife into her void, feeling it sink into something solid, something alive. The chamber shook harder, the pit's tendrils thrashing, releasing me. I fell, gasping, my body a ruin of blisters and blood, but I was still me, still fighting. The woman in white screamed, her form collapsing, insects scattering, and the pit pulsed faster, its darkness flickering like a dying flame. I crawled away, the knife still in my hand. The chamber crumbling, flesh walls collapsing, bodies falling free, their screams fading. The tunnel was closing, the station's heart faltering. But I knew it wasn't over. The road was still out there, Route 66, its hunger eternal. I staggered toward the tunnel's mouth, my vision fading, the knife heavy, my body breaking. The logbook's final truth hit me. The road doesn't die, it waits. And as I reached the tunnel's end, the station's lights flickered back on, the hum returning, softer but alive. The road wasn't done with me, and the final act was coming. The tunnel spat me back into the station's back room, the fleshy walls collapsing behind me with a wet, sucking sound, like a wound sealing shut. I hit the linoleum hard, my body a wreck, skin shredded, blisters oozing, the venom from the pit's tendrils burning through my veins, making every heartbeat feel like a hammer against my ribs. Mike's knife was still clutched in my hand, its blade slick with black ooze that hissed and smoked where it dripped. The air was heavy, thick with the stench of rot and gasoline. But the hum was quieter now, a low murmur, like the road was catching its breath. The creatures were gone, their forms dissolved into the station's bleeding walls, and the woman in white was nowhere, just a faint buzz of insects lingering in the air. But I knew better than to think it was over. The logbook stories, Mike's peeled corpse, the girl's eyeless face, the kid's shadowless terror, weren't endings. They were cycles, and I was the last loop in Route 66's endless hunger. I staggered to my feet, the knife my only anchor, its carved initials grounding me. My arm was numb, the blisters spreading to my chest, splitting open to reveal raw muscle that pulsed with a life not my own. The station was alive, its walls pulsing faintly, the floor still soft like stepping on a tongue. The cooler door hung open, its shelves empty, the tunnel gone, but the air inside shimmered, like heat rising off asphalt. I could feel the road watching, its presence woven into every crack, every stain. The logbook's final warning burned in my mind. The road doesn't die, it waits. I wasn't free. The station wasn't closing. It was remaking itself, and I was its raw material. I stumbled to the counter, the knife scraping the floor, my blood mixing with the sludge that coated everything. The register was a ruin, its screen dark, but the words it had shown, last one, feed the road, were seared into my brain. I grabbed the logbook from under the counter, its pages warped, stained with blood and something thicker like fat. The entries were there, scrawled by hands long gone. Mike's warning about the faceless trucker, the girl's note about the woman in white, the kid's plea about the shadowless child. But at the end, a new page blank except for one line in my handwriting, though I didn't remember writing it. You can't leave. You're the last. The station was writing my story, claiming me like it had the others. The front door was still sealed, the glass fused into a solid sheet, but the windows were cracked now, letting in slivers of desert night. Outside, the pumps stood silent, their hoses coiled, dripping that red-black fluid that wasn't gas. The ground beyond pulsed faintly, veins spreading under the asphalt, glowing like embers. Route 66 stretched into the dark, a living thing, its hunger a low growl I felt in my bones. I gripped the knife, knowing it was all I had left. Mike's defiance passed to me. I wasn't going to be another face in the walls, another scream in the tunnel. I'd fight, even if it killed me. I headed for the emergency exit, the one I'd tried before, but the floor fought me, rippling. Hands forming in the linoleum, grabbing my ankles. They were the others. Mike, the girl, their faces distorted, mouths snapping, teeth sharp and hungry. I slashed with the knife, cutting through their fingers, their screams echoing as they sank back into the floor. The exit door was there, rusted but solid, and I slammed my shoulder against it, the bar giving way with a groan. Cold air hit me, sharp and clean, but the desert wasn't empty. The van was back, its blacked-out windows staring like eyes, doors open, waiting. I froze, knife raised, expecting the creatures to spill out again, but nothing came. Just silence and the road's pulse, stronger now, vibrating through the ground. I stepped into the lot, the asphalt soft under my boots, splitting to reveal that same fleshy underbelly, veins throbbing, hands reaching. I stabbed one, the knife sinking deep, blood spraying, but it laughed, a wet, gurgling sound, and pulled back. The station's lights flickered, the sign, "Last days, everything must go," flaring bright, then dying. The hum surged, louder, and I heard her voice again, the woman in white, whispering from everywhere. "You're home." I turned and she was there, standing by the pumps, her dress a writhing mass of insects, her eyes black voids. The creatures emerged from the ground, their bodies reforming, flesh knitting together. Jawless, hollow-chested, eyeless, all of them, their shapes fluid, like the road was sculpting them anew. I ran, not for the station but for the road itself, thinking maybe I could outrun it, lose it in the dark. But the asphalt moved, tripping me, and I fell, the knife skidding across the ground. The creatures were on me, their hands tearing, their mouths biting, my blood mixing with the road's pulse. I grabbed the knife, slashing wildly, cutting through flesh that parted like water, only to reform. The woman in white knelt beside me, her insect dress crawling over my skin, burrowing into my wounds. "The road keeps you," she said, her voice a chorus of the lost. I saw them in her eyes, Mike, the girl, the kid, their faces screaming, trapped forever. I stabbed her, the knife sinking into her chest, but she didn't flinch, her body dissolving into insects that swarmed me, filling my mouth, my nose, choking me. I was drowning in them, my vision fading, the road's pulse deafening. But I thought of the logbook, the knife, the stories, each employee's fight, their refusal to give in. I slashed again, cutting through the swarm, and the woman screamed, her form collapsing, the insects scattering. The creatures staggered, their bodies unraveling, sinking into the asphalt. The ground shook, splitting wider, and I saw the pit again, that black void from the tunnel rising under the road, its tendrils reaching. I crawled, dragging my broken body, the knife my lifeline. The pit's hum was a roar now, pulling at me, but I stabbed the ground, carving into its flesh, each cut weakening the pulse. The station groaned, walls cracking, pumps toppling, their hoses bursting, spraying blood that screamed as it hit the air. The pit shuddered, its tendrils thrashing, and I felt the road's hunger falter, just for a moment. I stabbed again, deeper, and the ground split open, swallowing the van, the pumps, the station itself, collapsing into the void. I rolled away, clutching the knife, my body failing, blood pooling beneath me. The station was gone, a crater where it stood, the road silent for the first time. But I felt it still. Route 66, its hunger buried but alive, waiting. I staggered to my feet, the knife heavy, my vision fading. The desert stretched before me, the highway a dark ribbon, and I knew it wasn't over. The logbook was right. The road doesn't die, it waits. And as I limped away, the knife my only proof, I heard the hum again, faint but growing, calling me back. The last employee, the final story, but not the end. The road was still hungry, and I'd carry its mark forever. That's all for today. Hope you can still sleep tonight. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for next story.